Gents, let's focus on Brighton against Liverpool. Big game down at the Amex for Liverpool, of course, to keep their title bid on track. Nick, Brighton, your Seagulls have hit a bit of a turbulent spell in recent weeks, so with a lot of defeats. But is it that bad for them? I still feel like they can cause Liverpool some problems here, and an upset is on the cards a little bit, especially with Liverpool playing in the Champions League in midweek. I mean, what do you think about this game? Is this going to be straightforward for Liverpool given the form they're in, or can Graham Potter's side actually, cause an upset and really help Man City in the title bid?
I think it shows exactly how far Brighton have come that I give that thumbs down, and it's not because I think they stink. It's not a worry that they're going to be in the bottom three. They're good, but they have for a year and a half now. I don't want to say they need someone better than Neal Maupay, but they need at least another Neal Maupay. They don't have finishers, and they've hoped Aaron Connolly would become that. They have playmaking midfielders for days. What he does with Solly March, what Graham Potter does with Solly March, they've got players who are going to get the ball into promising spaces, but they just don't finish. The good news for Brighton, yes, is Liverpool plays at midweek, and also I can't get over the quality of chances they give up. You look at their goals allowed, and it's low because they're a good defensive team. And again, next year, when Konate and Van Dijk, who I think are their team of the future at center back, when they're comfortable with each other, more comfortable with each other, it's going to be a whole nother story. But right now, they are still just allowing monstrous opportunities. The miss from Lanzini this weekend is one of the worst misses you will ever see from a top player too. That didn't fall to Angelo Ogbonna. That's Lanzini. And so I just don't think Brighton, you can't count on Brighton on a week-to-week basis to finish their chances. And you will one day. They will buy, even if they got an Iheanacho, they're probably in 7th place. But they don't have it right now.
They don't. Liverpool, I think, are just so ruthless at the moment. Even that win against West Ham, they clung on there, gave up a lot of opportunities on the counter. But I just feel like the way that Brighton play, like to possess the ball, take risks going forward, that leaves a lot of opportunities for Salah, Mane, Jota, Diaz, whoever is playing in that wonderful front five that they have. I see Liverpool getting the job done here. It'll be close. It'll be tight. Brighton don't make it easy for anybody. But I just feel like it's going to be a Liverpool win to keep the title bid on track and just put a little bit more pressure on Manchester City. Andy, Leeds United against Norwich City, massive game at the bottom of the table. I mean, Norwich basically have to win games like this. They have to win this one and win pretty much most of their games remaining to give themselves a chance. Jesse Marsch and Leeds United, his first home game in charge at Ellen Road. This is massive for the American coach. What are you looking forward to in this game? Because if Patrick Bamford's back fit, that's huge for Leeds United, right?
Yeah, it is. And I'm looking at the schedule here. Leeds get to play Norwich at a time when they also have Burnley coming up, Brighton coming up. So they've got a nice little stretch of games coming up here where that they could really quickly pull themselves away from the bottom three. And the fact that they get Norwich, who just last weekend, probably say Brentford season. It's going to be back-to-back weeks, I think, for Norwich, kind of doing a favor for a couple of teams right there at risk of falling into the relegation battle. I look at the way that Leeds play. You can see an idea. You can see a tactical philosophy and the building blocks that Jesse Marsch already has to work with from Bielsa left over, and the way that he's going to be able to put his stamp on things. I just don't see with Norwich any way out of the slide that they're in at the moment. They've lost 4 in a row. They've not been particularly competitive. They had the very, very, very brief run of 2 games, maybe 3, where they picked up a couple of results, and it's like, oh, hey, there's a little bit life left in them. But it's just at this point of the season, there's not enough quality. There are some injuries that are holding that team back just a little bit. And so I look at Leeds and say, you win this game, I think that creates momentum. I think that creates confidence for this team. I think it creates belief in Jesse Marsch as the manager to kind of arrest this slide that Leeds have been on. And at that point, they can go on a nice little run to finish the season. So with Norwich coming up first this weekend, I kind of look at this and I feel even better than everything that we talked about Jesse Marsch this week and the short-term prospects. The long-term prospects are great. The short-term, maybe a little bit more questions, but the fact that they get to play Norwich here, it's a pretty good one.
Sets up well to build momentum and kind of have positive vibes to start at Ellen Road, get a big win, and then you said some winnable games coming up for Leeds. So who knows? Let's wait and see. It's going to be, again, a very intense game for both teams because they need 3 points to help them in the relegation scrap. Nick, Arsenal against Leicester. Arsenal, as we said, we've been very impressed with them. Defensively solid, decent going forward. Playing Leicester, though, is just a weird one, right? You never quite know what you're going to get. A bit of a flip of a coin, considering their injuries throughout the last few months. What do you got your eye on heading into this game at the Emirates?
I got my eye on whether Leicester is going to call it a day, because they have Rennes at home, and they're going to want to give their fans a spot in the quarterfinal and a good advantage before going away to France next week. I think if you look at a stretch of 6 games for them, that was Burnley, Leeds, Rennes, Arsenal, Rennes again, and Brentford, that this is the game that they probably will have said, that's going to be tough. It's away. It's in North London. So look for the counterpunchers. Look for, we know that at times Rodgers doesn't want the ball. He doesn't need the ball, I should say. Of course, everybody wants the ball. And I just think Arsenal is humming to the point where this is what we said in the summer. A year for Arsenal where they don't have to contend with anything besides domestic cups and the Premier League table. And Mikel Arteta is starting to show us, by virtue of how comfortable they won, even though they had to hold on last week in a 3-2 game, he knows the opposition. If the players are bought into his system and they play with maturity, they're just going to get it done. And I think this has Arsenal written all over it.
I think so. Jamie Vardy always seems to score against them, right? So that's the most interesting thing. But I think for Arsenal, you said it there, just the way they're clicking through, and you can tell that Arteta, his methods are working. The goals they're scoring is almost like watching Manchester City. The way that he helped Pep Guardiola construct that team, where they're getting the ball wide, they're cutting it back, they're scoring goals, and they just look very fluid. Defensively, pretty solid. And I think they are benefiting from exiting the FA Cup very early in the competition. So that gives them full focus now on where they almost have 4 or 5 days to prepare for each game, which is huge at this point of the season when a lot of their competitors aren't having that luxury in the top 4 battles. So yeah, Leicester, though, we always know they can cause surprises on the counter. So let's see what they can do away at Arsenal. So other games to keep an eye on: Crystal Palace against Man City. A bit of a tough one there for City. They obviously lost to Palace at home earlier in the season, but Pep Guardiola's side should have enough in the tank there to get another big win in their title push. Brentford at home against Burnley. My word, talk about a relegation 6-pointer. Brentford, obviously, off that big win away at Norwich, looking to build on that. Christian Eriksen looks good. Ivan Toney looks really good, back in form. But Burnley need to win this one, and they'll come out firing on all cylinders, you'd think, in West London to try and boost their survival hopes. And Chelsea against Newcastle as well. Don't sleep on that. Newcastle have been really good in recent weeks, obviously pushed themselves away from the relegation scrap. We all think, Chelsea will win this one easily, but of course they have a Champions League last 16 game they might have their eye on as well, might rest a few players. A lot of uncertainty around the club as well. So it's an interesting week in the Premier League. So gents, thanks so much for joining me for Pro Soccer Talk this week. Remember, everyone, head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com for latest information on team news, stream links, how to watch info. We're going to be watching it all. A great weekend coming up in the Premier League. Thanks for watching, and we'll speak to you all very soon indeed. Cheers, guys.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch highlights all season long, and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend at 7 a.m. Eastern. And for even more content, head over to Peacock, where we've got live games, original series, and a dedicated round-the-clock Premier League channel featuring studio shows, classic matches, and much more.